Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my what I read this summer video. If you're new here, every season I do a what I read this season video and they're normally very seasonally appropriate, but we'll see. Welcome to my garden. I've never filmed here before, but I figured we're doing a summer video. It's a nice summer day. Why not? And on top of that, I bought these little microphones. This is my first time testing them out. So if the audio is not great, I apologize. I'm still learning how to use it, how close or far away I'm supposed to hold it. Please bear with me. But yeah, I'm here. It's a lovely sunny day. The sun's just come out, so I'm going to be squinting the whole time, which is great. It's just come out right there. And I've got little Jolene here with me, who you can't see, but she's loving sunbathing, being outside. Yeah, I'm going to be squinting this whole time. That's so annoying. The sun was in the perfect place before, and now I can't see. But anyway, let's begin with the books I read this season. So this summer I have read 15 books, which for me is pretty good. I don't really remember, normally about the sort of 10 mark. So definitely read more than anticipated. And part of that reason is because I have recently joined a book club. It's just a virtual book club, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I've only been going 1 month, but obviously it's been encouraging me to read lots of books I wouldn't have normally read. And I'm really excited. So that book club book will always be in the series going forward. But this month the book was Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. I'll give you a little look right there. And it's about these two girls who are sisters but don't realize they're sisters, who live in Ghana. And they obviously go down, get married, go down different generations. Oh, that's a bit better. I can see again. And so each chapter alternates between like sister one, sister two, sister one's child, sister two's child, down, down, down. So it goes from 1700s all the way down to present day. And I really, really enjoyed it. Obviously, it covers some heavy topics. So one side of the family is sold into slavery and ends up in America. And the other side of the family, the sister marries one of the slave owners and stays in Ghana. So it's kind of talking about those two different African experiences around that time. It's very harrowing. It's very hard to read. It doesn't hold back. But if you think you can hack it, it's a really, really amazing book. I am quite ignorant about the slave trade, to be honest. I know the basic facts, but that's about it. So I actually really learned a lot from this book. It was really interesting, really insightful, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I've already talked about it for an hour at book group and sort of analysing it. But it's a really, really good book, and I'm really glad I read it because it's not the kind of book I would have picked up myself and just decided to read from a bookshop. So it just opened my eyes to a new author. So I'm hopefully going to read some more of her stuff because I just thought it was really well written, very clear. You definitely need the family tree at the beginning, otherwise it does get a little bit complicated. Because I know some people did the audiobook and had a really hard time understanding who was who and things like that. So this one is definitely one I recommend reading a physical copy of. The next book I'm going to cover is a bit of an odd one, so I figured I'll just get it out the way. So if you guys have watched some of my other What I Read This Season videos, you'll know I'm a big fan of these books that Disneyland Paris come out with that talk about the history and all the lore behind some of their rides. So I've got Pirates of the Caribbean and I've got Haunted Mansion. So last time I was at Disneyland, I picked up the Space Mountain book. They are absolutely beautiful. The reason I chose this one last is because I've never been on Space Mountain and I'll probably never go on it because it absolutely terrifies me. I'm not a big roller coaster person, but it is an absolutely gorgeous book with loads of amazing pictures. It is in French, but it's also in English. So on any one page, you're really only reading half of it. So like that top half is in French, the bottom half is in English. So it's actually a very, very short book. It's short already, but considering you're only reading half of it, I just read it in one sitting, but it's absolutely beautiful. It would make a great coffee table book alongside the other two books as well. They're absolutely beautiful. And if you're a big theme park person, especially a big Disney parks person like I am, you get so much information and lore and beautiful behind the scenes pictures. And it's a brilliant book. So I don't know if you can pick them up. You can probably get them on eBay, but in terms of buying them first edition, I think you have to go to the parks to get them. And if you are going to Disneyland Paris, when you first enter the Magic Kingdom and you've got the square before you go down Main Street, it's on the left. It's a bookshop. It's got other cool things as well, so I recommend checking it out. So the next book I read is one of Laurie Gilmore's books. You guys know I'm a big fan of her like Hallmark movie kind of books. So I have read, I think I've read The Christmas Tree Farm and I've read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. So the next one I picked up was The Strawberry Patch Pancake House, which is very hard to say. So this one is sort of more focused from a male perspective, where the other two have always been a female main character. So that was very interesting. And he's Archer, and he's found out he has this daughter, so he has to come to Dream Harbor, and he's working at the diner, and then he meets Iris, and blah blah blah. If you don't know, these are just sort of like light-hearted rom-com kind of books. They're really not that deep. This one was really good. I didn't love the setting of the Strawberry Patch Pancake House as much as I liked the Christmas Tree Farm and the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I don't know, I just generally wasn't as interested, and it was a lot about like cooking and baking, and I'm just not so interested in that. Whereas I preferred, I suppose it's because I just don't like summer, guys. I really hate summer. Whereas the Pumpkin Spice Cafe is very autumnal and the Christmas Tree Farm is very Christmassy, and I just prefer those settings. So I think I was biased to begin with. I also wasn't such a big fan of reading the book from Archer's perspective. I preferred reading it from a female perspective, like with the other books. I don't know why. I think that's just a me thing. But I just wasn't as invested or as interested in him and his story and him and Iris's relationship. I don't know. It was just fine. This book is good, but it's definitely not my favorite. Out of the three I've read so far in the series, it's definitely my least favorite one. I'm really excited to read the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore and the Gingerbread Bakery. So Cinnamon Bun Bookstore will definitely be coming in my what I read this autumn, and the Gingerbread Bakery will definitely be in what I read this winter. So you can check them out, and then I'll be caught up at least with the whole series, because she comes out with books quite quick, I believe. So yeah, but it's an absolutely beautiful book. They always look amazing. So yeah, I am excited to keep reading, but this one didn't do much for me. Moving on to a completely different type of book. I was given this for my birthday from my grandmother. It's A Room of One's Own and Three Guineas by Virginia Woolf. They're two of her sort of short stories / essays. I hadn't read any Virginia Woolf before, so I was really excited to give it a go. A Room of One's Own is basically a written down version of a lecture that she gave at a university at some point. And if you don't know, Virginia Woolf is she's a feminist. I think she around in the 40s, yeah, sort of 40s, sort of 30s, 40s sort of area, and was very ahead of her time in terms of what she was talking about with feminism and the women's movement and that kind of thing. I really, really enjoyed A Room of One's Own. Don't get me wrong, it's heavy and it is just like reading a university essay, so it's definitely not going to be for everyone, especially if you prefer this sort of book. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really insightful. It really made me think about a lot of things, and it really wasn't too long. I mean, it's like 100 pages max. You could read it in a day. It's a bit heavy to read in a day, but you could read it in a day. Whereas Three Guineas, which is the second book, that is a letter that she wrote to someone who wrote to her saying, how do you think we stop war? Because it was at the brink of World War II. This one I really didn't like as much. It's much longer, I think, and no, it's about the same. It's about 100 pages as well, and I just found it so dull. And I think the problem with it is with old-timey books is that because people had a lot of time on their hands, or at least sort of richer people did, you find that the books tend to waffle. Okay, I'm back. I think I accidentally turned my microphone off, so apologies about that. But they tend to waffle because they appreciate that you'll spend a lot of your day reading, whereas nowadays it's much more like, get to the point. It's the same with films and TV shows and things like that. And it just waffled, and she went off on these tangents about things that were completely unrelated to the question that the guy had asked in his letter, and it just really frustrated me. And I was like, I don't see how this relates to what your last point was. To me, it was just pure waffle. I really, really struggled to get through that second story. Sorry, I'm getting major hay fever and my nose is so itchy. So I just really, really struggled to get through the second one, but I really enjoyed A Room of One's Own, but I wouldn't bother with Three Guineas. Okay, what shall I do next? Okay, so this next book does not fit the summer vibe at all, but it's Harlan Ellison's Greatest Hits, so it's a compilation of a lot of the stories that he has written. If you don't know, he's quite a famous sci-fi author. He has written a lot of books. I don't think he's alive anymore, but he's written a lot of books, a lot of short stories. This is a compilation of some of the best ones. I am not informed enough to say whether certain stories in this should or should not be included, but I'll just talk very generally about what I thought about the book. I won't go into every short story because there's actually a lot. It is quite a thick book. But the reason I picked it up is because I really have always wanted to read, what's it called? I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. You may have seen, if you look it up on YouTube, there's so many videos about the story, about how it's one of the scariest, most disturbing books ever written. I say book, it's about 10 pages. It's so quick and easy to read. Hence why I couldn't find it on its own. I was like, why can't I find this book? It's because it's so short. It only ever shows up in anthologies. And that who's like the main villain in it, is like the scariest, most disturbing book villain ever written. And I'd probably agree with that. I've not read that much, but I would agree with that. So I'll tell you, I really, really enjoyed that short story. It's not for everyone. I recommend maybe looking it up or watching a YouTube video about it before you read it, because it is something else. But generally speaking, I really enjoyed this book. I really there were certain stories of his that I really, really enjoyed. Repent Harlequin, that was a really good one. Chatting with Anubis. Jeopardy is 5, that's probably the most disturbing book I've ever read. That was a really scary story. Some of them I hated and I just didn't understand. He quite likes sort of dropping you into a world and not really explaining how or why, or why anything is the way it is in that world. And I find that a little bit frustrating sometimes, not being able to sort of find a rhyme or reason in it. But for some people, you'd absolutely love that. So it's worth looking into his stories. I enjoyed them, but I wouldn't say I'm now going to be seeking out like all his books and all his stories. I'm happy with the ones I read. Although apparently there's one, A Boy and His Dog, I think, that he's written, that's one of his most famous, and it got turned into a film. But it's not in here. And when I was looking up about this book, a lot of people were very annoyed that that wasn't included in here because it's considered one of his best. So I'll maybe look out that one or watch the film or something. Okay, the next book is a non-fiction book, and it is Midnight in Chernobyl by Adam Higginbotham. Botham, I'm not too sure. This is a play-by-play of what happened in Chernobyl. I have read another Chernobyl book, Voices from Chernobyl, which is an oral history. This one is more, I don't want to call it dry because it wasn't dry, but more of like your run-of-the-mill, this is what happened at this time kind of book. It's really good. It's got really good pictures and things inside it. So I love a picture in a book. And if you want to know absolutely everything that happened before, during, and after the Chernobyl incident, this is the book for you. It doesn't look that thick, but it takes a while to get through it, and it covers everything. I mean, I am now a nuclear physicist. I now know everything about nuclear energy and how a nuclear reactor works. It's really good, but it's definitely not for everyone. I did struggle at certain points to continue through this book. Voices from Chernobyl is a much more, I don't want to use this word, but a much more enjoyable experience to read. It's much easier, it flows much easier, and you guys know I love an oral history. I think it gives you the best insight into an event and how people were feeling and the actual impact it had on people. But if you're looking for the cold, hard facts, this is a really, really good book. We're moving on. We're just absolutely flying through these. So the next book is My Best Friend's Exorcism. Should I have saved this to read in autumn? Because is that not the most Halloweeny book ever? Maybe, but whatever. It looks so cool. It looks like an old like VHS thing. It says staff pick on it. It's really cool. The only annoying thing is it doesn't fit on my bookshelf because it's too big. It's not like a regular size. So that's a little frustrating, but it's fine. We move on. So basically, this is about Abby and her friend Gretchen, and Gretchen sort of starts acting weird and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, she is possessed by a demon, and she's basically, trying to fight the system and, fight the head teacher and things like that to save her and protect her. I had very high hopes for this book, especially because I've read a Grady Hendrix book before, The Final Girl Support Group, and I really enjoyed it. But both books, I think, had the same issue where the idea was really good and there were certain elements in the book that were fantastic, but there's a certain je ne sais quoi where it just falls short a bit and stops me from loving it. In this one, for example, it's really repetitive, and I did have the same issue with The Final Girl Support Group, I remember. But in this one, it's just a bit like, you go to her house and Gretchen's acting weird, and then Abby goes and thinks about it for a chapter and what could it be? What could I do? Go back to Gretchen's house, she's acting weird, Abby thinks about it. It's very repetitive, and honestly, it should have been a short story because I think a lot of those chapters were just trying to fill it out. It's very, very repetitive, and if you cut all those chapters out, nothing would change, and it would be about a third of the length. So I enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it. I like having it in my collection because it looks really cool, but overall wasn't that impressed. I've also got Horrorstör, the sort of IKEA catalogue looking one that he's done, so I'll give that a go, and if I don't love that, I think I'll maybe stop reading his stuff, but maybe he can pull me back because I know he's written quite a few, and they've always got really good concept. I just think they never quite sticks the landing. But if you've read any of those books, let me know your thoughts. Okay, we'll stick with the like horror, not really seasonally appropriate books. I've got two more like horror books, and they're both classics. So the first one is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Very short book. I've always wanted to read this because I'm a really big fan of the TV show The Haunting of Hill House by Mike Flanagan. I went into reading this very much aware that they're very different, and that Mike Flanagan only took sort of general inspiration from this book, and they are very, very different. But even going into that, I was a bit disappointed with this book. I actually really just didn't like it. I thought it was very boring. I hate to say that, but I thought it was very boring. Really struggled to get myself through it. It was a lot of just talking about not a lot. I felt like when there was a horror element, it just wasn't really very scary. It didn't really do anything for me. So I didn't even have sort of like those elements to look forward to. The main character, Eleanor, which is obviously supposed to be Nell in the TV show Haunting of Hill House, but Eleanor is the most annoying main character I've ever come across in my whole life. She's such a drip. Like, she just can't do anything for herself. She's constantly like in her head, like moaning and complaining and saying like, oh, I'll never be good. She's such like a martyr. She's like, oh, I'll never be good. Oh, I could never do that. All this kind of thing. It's like, girl, get a grip. Like, honestly, if I was stuck in this house with her, I'd be happy to be with the ghosts. Jolene. Jolene's here and she's growling. Jolene, chill out. You might hear some barking. Yeah, I'd rather talk to the ghosts than her. I'd rather be haunted than deal with Eleanor. So I was just generally a little bit frustrated reading that book, and I just didn't have the best time with it. I know it's a classic. I know some people absolutely love it, so let me know if you disagree with me, but it's just not my favorite. And in short succession, actually, after I read another very famous short ghost story, The Women in Black by Susan Hill. This was actually the one that before I read it, I was like, I'm not too sure about it, because I've watched the film, the Daniel Radcliffe film, and I didn't love it. I thought it was kind of boring, and it is quite basic, because if you don't know, this basically started all the sort of haunted house tropes that we are familiar with. And so when you read it now, you can be a bit like, it's a bit obvious, but at the time, this was like brand new. That being said, though, I loved this book. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the character of Arthur Kipps. I thought he made good, solid decisions the whole time. I loved the setting of Eelmarsh House. It was so spooky and creepy, and it's got a bit like in 28 Years Later, it's got that sort of bit to get to the mainland that gets like flooded, or the tide comes in, so you can only leave the house at certain times. I thought the ghosts were really creepy. I liked how there was an element of it being sort of psychological a little bit, and I liked the ending, and just overall I just thought it was a really good book. I don't want to spoil it too much, but if you're looking this coming autumnal season for just sort of classic spooky scary ghost story, definitely recommend it. It is quite short, so definitely recommend this one. The sun doesn't know what it's doing. I'm back to squinting again. I also read Alice in Wonderland with this absolutely beautiful cover. You guys know I collect the Wordsworth Collector Edition books, and this is one of them that I found in an actual shop. I never see them in actual shops. I always have to buy them online. And I just thought it was absolutely beautiful. And obviously, my name is Alice, so I was like, I have to read this book at some point in my life. It's not got all the original illustrations in it, but it does have some of them. So you still get the vibe. And this is really short. It's about 150 pages, and I read it in one night. Just started it, finished it all in one go, didn't even take a break. And I've been thinking, and I don't really know what to say about this book. Like, I liked it, but it's just so weird that I'm just not sure what to say about it. Like, it's weird. And I've read those Harlan Ellison books, so that's saying something, but it's very unusual. It's very random. I feel like if it came out today, everyone would be like, oh, you're trying to be like XD random. I enjoyed it. I'm going to read through The Looking Glass. I obviously enjoyed it enough to think that I want to read the second one, but it was maybe a little bit too whimsical and random for me. And I think part of that is it's a children's story, so I'm obviously not its target audience, but it is very concise and you get through it very fast, so that's always a win for me. But yeah, maybe I'll come back to this and be able to give you more of an idea of what I thought about it at some point. But yeah, I'm confused by it. Sorry, that's not helpful at all. Okay, as you guys know, always reading books about a certain topic. So I've got two here. The first one is All the Broken Places by John Boyne. It is the sequel to The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. It came out a couple of years ago, so it's quite recent. There's quite a bit of a gap between the two books. I have talked before about The Boy in the Striped Pajamas and my thoughts on it and the problems with it. There are plenty of videos about the problem with it, but I was curious enough to be like, okay, he's had time to process the criticism of the book. I'm sweating so bad. It's so hot. I'm really interested to see what he does with this. And you know what? I don't think he took any of the criticism on board. I think it's still got a lot of the same problems that the first one had. That being said, I enjoyed reading it a lot more, and trying to ignore all the problems, I actually quite liked it. I think I'm the only person, based on what I've seen, that quite likes this book. So it's about his sister Gretel. As well, it sort of moves between sort of after the war ends, or her memories sort of during the war, and her life now as an older lady living in the present day. And I found it really interesting. So it's about sort of in the sort of more past storyline. It's sort of her grappling with what her father did and what she was complicit in and what she considered okay, and like being on the run, basically being known as the family of someone so evil. And in her present day life as an older lady, she's sort of living with the fact that she's kept a secret her whole life, and people find out and are still blackmailing her and things like that. So it's actually a very, very interesting take on a topic that's been gone over a million times in a million different books. So I do recommend it. I enjoyed reading it, but I think it's important that you have a critical eye on it and you do read up a little bit on some of these criticisms of John Boyne's work, just so that you're aware of that and don't take everything face value, because it's not always super historically accurate. And the other book on this topic I read is The Boy Who Drew Auschwitz by Thomas Geeve. This is a non-fiction book. So obviously he went through the Holocaust, but when he was finished as a teenager, when it all finished, he immediately drew loads of pictures of his experiences, and that was really helpful in kind of helping historians and people like that have a deeper understanding of what things look like and how they work. So you can see some of them. He drew over 80. One of my criticisms of this book is that I feel like they could have included way, way more of his pictures. I would have happily seen all of them. They only chose a select few, and I really think throughout the book they definitely could have peppered a few more in there, because I was really interested to see. I mean, you can look at a lot of them online, but it would have been nice for them to be in this book. Really interesting story. Tells you a lot about this topic area that I've never seen in other books, and I read quite a lot about this topic. Very, very interesting, unique experience. Moved to 3 different concentration camps during his life, each with sort of unique quirks to them, if you will, very unique experiences, and his story of being liberated at the end is truly inspiring and amazing, and so fascinating in terms of how the townspeople treated them once they were liberated. It's just a very, very interesting story. Of course, at the end, it then goes on to him talking about freeing the homeland of Israel. So that really, I don't know, that was not a nice ending to end on based on my political feelings. But ignoring that, generally speaking, his story is very inspiring, very amazing. It's incredible what he went through, and still obviously able to come out the other side and, put something like this together for us to read. It's a really, really great story. Well, it's not a story, but you know what I mean. I always feel weird talking about that kind of stuff. But if you're interested in this topic, I definitely recommend reading this. Okay, got 3 books left, so we're moving on to slightly cheerier topics. I have read 2 Ali Hazelwood books this series. She brings out books like nobody's business. I am struggling to keep up. I'm not even 100% sure. Let's see if there's a list. Yeah, I haven't even read all of her books. I'm really struggling to keep up. But I read Not in Love, which I think came out a few years ago, but I'm only just catching up. This is about Rue. Yeah, so this is about Rue, who works at a biotech company called Client. If you don't know, Ali Hazelwood does STEM romances. I really enjoy it. It creates a really unique twist on a typical romance book, sort of being in that STEM space. And then Eli comes in and he's taking over the company, and so it's kind of an enemies to lovers kind of situation. I have to admit, out of all the Ali Hazelwood books, I think this is my least favorite, apart from Check and Mate, but that's more for a younger audience, so I think it just wasn't for me. But even then, I think I dislike this one more. I have to admit, I thought it was really unrealistic, and I get that romance novels are always going to be a bit unrealistic, but this one was impossible. So Eli is so obsessed with Rue that it borders on creepy, and it's definitely not supposed to come across as creepy, but honestly, he's obsessed. He's like a stalker, and it's definitely not written for him to be like a stalker. It's supposed to be considered oh, he just loves her so much. No, it's actually obsessive and creepy, and it really pulls me out of it. I did not think these characters had good chemistry at all. I don't think they had a healthy relationship at all, and overall, I just didn't enjoy the storyline as much as others. I didn't enjoy the setting as much as others, and I was generally pretty disappointed with it. I'm not gonna lie, I just did not like it at all. And from what I've read, this one generally doesn't tend to be people's favourites. I think I'm not in the minority here with this one. So I finished that and I was a bit disappointed. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to read any more, but she has very recently come out with Deep End. This is her newest one. And I saw it and I liked the idea of it. So I was like, I'll give her another go because I really liked some. Oh, I should say as well, I also reread The Love Hypothesis. I forgot to include rereads at the beginning, but I did reread The Love Hypothesis, which is also another Ali Hazelwood book, because it's turning into a film, which is very exciting. I can't wait. Love that book. So that was a reread. So that's an additional book I read. But anyway, I picked up Deep End. So it's about Scarlett, who is studying STEM at Stanford, but she's also a professional diver. And then there's Lucas, who is a professional swimmer, and they get into a relationship, basically. And what's nice is that there's a lot of cameos from characters in The Love Hypothesis, which is really cool. It's nice to see the world sort of finally connect together, especially after I just reread it. So I like that a lot. But guys, I think this might be one of my favorite books she's read. So I've really I'm really flip-flopping here. I thought, what's her name? Scarlett and Lucas's relationship was really good. I really enjoyed their chemistry. I really liked the characters together. I rooted for them. I liked the sort of sport element that this one added, which isn't typically there because it's always all about the science. So I liked that there was that sport element as well, kind of being on the same team. I really liked the sort of situation that their relationship was in that everyone thought that Lucas was still with his old girlfriend Penelope, so they had to keep it a secret, all that kind of thing. I really enjoyed it. Selfishly, I would have liked it if, and this is spoiler alert, if at some point Penelope turned out to be a total bitch and, they were like, get lost, Penelope. But actually, I have to admit, it was nice that it was a really healthy friendship that these two girls had. Obviously, that's a lot better. But part of me wanted it to just be vicious. I don't know, maybe that tells you more about me than anyone else, but really enjoyed this. So I'm back on the Ali Hazelwood hype train. I'm ready to read some more of her books because I'm sure there'll be 10 coming out next year that I can't keep on top of. And the very last book I read is huge, and I only got it because I thought the cover was so pretty, and it is Mythology by Edith Hamilton. Edith Hamilton wrote this book a long time ago, 75 years ago in fact. This is a sort of updated coffee table version of her book, and it goes over all the Greek and Roman gods and myths, and a little section at the end about Norse myths as well. But I mean, the pictures, you can't really see, but the pictures in it are absolutely gorgeous. It's illustrated by Jim Tierney. I'll need to look him up because his illustrations are beautiful, and generally speaking, even the page just with the text are really, really pretty. So overall, I would rate this book very highly. It's a gorgeous book. It's a good conversation book, like I say, to just have on your coffee table. You can just pick a random god or story that you're interested in and just read that. It doesn't need to be read all the way beginning to end, although that is what I did, because otherwise I don't count it as reading a book and I get really weird and anally retentive about it. That being said, I just don't think I'm genuinely interested in mythology. I just don't think it's for me and sort of ancient, like Roman and Greek gods and myths. I don't know, it didn't capture me, and I really don't think it was the writing or anything. I think it was just me. Just, don't know, just generally, like, I'm just not interested in this topic. I'm glad I read it. It's always good to expand my knowledge and understand the differences between the Greek and Roman myths and how they influenced each other. And, you hear all these certain names that come from Greek gods and planets and things like that, and you don't really understand the story behind it, or like Narcissus, for example, being narcissism and how that came to be. So I'm really, really glad I read it, and I'm going to keep it because it's gorgeous, but I would never reread it. Like, I'm good. That's my mythical knowledge. Good. I think that's as much as I need to know. But I know for some people, this would be like an absolute godsend if you're interested in this sort of thing. It really talks you through them all, the Trojan War, all that kind of thing. So it was a really, really interesting book. And with that, I have talked through all the books I've read this summer. It feels like it was quite a lot. I did get a lot, obviously, it being the summer, I've had a lot of opportunities to read more, which has been really, really nice. But I'm definitely excited for autumn. You guys know I hate summer, hate it. It's just not the season for me. So I'm very excited for it to be spooky season, Twilight season. I can't wait. I've got so many cozy books to read, and I'm really looking forward to talking through them all with you guys towards the end of the season. Then we'll get into Christmas, which is crazy, which is my favorite. I love Christmas. So anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Goodbye from Jolene as well. Hold on. Goodbye from Jolene. I don't know if you could hear that. She said bye. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.